I'm going to teach you how to use InDesign to create the final parts of your magazine. This is going to be a fairly long video because I'm going to teach you how to use InDesign from the very start. I'm going to teach you how to add interactivity if you choose to do that. Then I'm going to teach you how to export it so everything works, and then show you how to add it to Google Classroom to submit the actual file. So we'll start off by opening InDesign. Now you may not have InDesign on your computer at the moment. So InDesign looks like this file here. If you don't have InDesign, what you want to do is you want to go to the Creative Cloud app. So if you've got Creative Cloud, let's see if I've got it. I hope I have it in here. Creative Cloud, Adobe Creative Cloud, and you double click on it, or it might be located up in the corner in an icon like this. What you want to do is you want to go down to InDesign and you want to click the install button if it's not on your computer. I can hit open and it'll take me to this file here. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to navigate over to the print section, which is up here, okay? And now you won't see what you need immediately here. There's not lots of nice little templates and presets, but we want to avoid those for the moment. But if you have some free time, you could always go and look through them. There might be something that helps you with your assessment task. But going into view all presets here, we want to click on A4. Once we've got A4, we know that we want 4 pages in our magazine. We also want to click on facing pages if it's not selected. That's this text box there. Everything else we can leave for now, and we're going to go create. You might get asked by Mr. Dwyer to do things like bleed and slug or margin lines and things like that. If he wants you to do it, you can do it. But for me, since this is a digital magazine, we don't necessarily have to worry about that. That's for my class, my advice, okay? So if you hit create, you get a four pages. So if I bring up the pages tab, which is here, I can see I've got my first page, the middle page spread, so the 2 pages next to each other, and then the back page where the advertisement goes. So at this point, you probably haven't made this middle section here. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. But the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to import your work from Photoshop. So if you have Photoshop, a Photoshop file, a cover done, what you need to do is you need to save that file. And you want to save it as a JPEG. So let's just say I've got this picture here. This is something that I was doing for art class. If you go File, Save As, and then save on your computer. We don't want to save as a cloud document, and save it as a JPEG. Okay, save it somewhere on your computer. Wherever it is, call it whatever you need to do. Save it as the highest quality you can do, and then move over to InDesign. Okay, in InDesign, what you want to do is go File, Place, and then you want to navigate to where you saved your image to. So I'm going to use another student's work, so a student from my class, just because he's already sent his stuff to me. Now this isn't necessarily an A, this isn't necessarily a good one nor a bad one, it's just one that I have access to. So this magazine is about Rick and Morty. So the first page, you're going to hit place and you're going to click on here. Now hopefully if you used Photoshop correctly, and you set up an A4 size page, it should be exactly the same size as this page. Now this one here, I had to take a screenshot of it, so it's not the right size, but even if you don't have the right size, that's okay at this point. I'm going to move it up to the corner, and then I'm going to resize it. Now you can't resize in InDesign like you would resize in a normal file. If you do, it just goes strange, and if you try and make it smaller, it's just gonna crop. What you have to do is hold down Command and Shift while you do it. So Command and Shift, and then you go in, and that will resize it for you. Now the quality, normally, if it's looking a bit blurry, you can go into Display Performance and do High Quality Display. But remember, these are screenshots that I had on another InDesign file, so I'm limited in the quality. If your work looks like that, you probably want a high quality save out from Photoshop. But for now, because this is just an example, we'll go with it, all right? So for the back cover, I'm going to go File and then Place. And then again, I'm going to go and find the screenshot for the back cover that this student has made, put it in, and once again, because I've had to resize it because this was a screenshot, I'm going to go Shift, Control, and Command, and then I'm going to pull it out because this is a Mac, all right? And so that's in now. So it's important that you make it the same size as a piece of paper, and that's why hopefully in the future you will follow the Photoshop rules. But if worst comes to worst, I mean, we can probably maybe go like that. I don't know. It's up to you, okay? So I've got these two files in here, and what I'm going to actually show you is one I prepared earlier. So like this is a recipe show, all right? So I've got this here, and I can just drag this down to the page that I want it to be on. So I'll drag this into here, and then do I have the cover? No. Okay, so I'll go back to my existing first page that I was just working on before. Click Command C, move up to the top, Command V, and I'll move it in. Okay, so the next thing you have to do is you have to create an article to go in the middle of your magazine. So I didn't write this article. I did this very quickly, okay? So I'd expect you to take more time than this, do a little bit more research than I did. So what I did was I went and found an article on the internet. And I want you to create your own image here. I want you to do something like the cover where you use some photoshopping and something interesting, okay? But you already know how to do that, hopefully, at this point. So you're going to use some tutorials, you can use some adjustment layers, you can use things like that, okay? Now I've got this image and I just copied it. I saved it, and then I went in and I went into InDesign, pardon me, and I went File, Place, did the same thing and colored and pasted it in 2 times. And then I've actually done the resizing without holding down Command Shift while I did it. And what that's allowing me to do is it's letting me crop. Okay. Then I went online and I found my own custom font. So I looked up Rick and Morty font, and I was able to download a TTF file. So that will be in my downloads. So maybe I can find that for you. It's called like Getting Swifty or something. That's okay. If ever you can't find something you've downloaded, you can always go into your browser and go Command Shift J. It'll bring up your downloads. Then you can go Show in Finder, and it'll show you where it is. Okay. So get swifty.zip, and then what I did was I double clicked on the font. I hit the Install Font button, and it installed the font. After that, it's available to me with any of my text. So I can go into here, I can go into properties, I can change this to Get Swifty, and it will make the entire work like that. But I don't want that, all right? After I did that, I changed the size, I added a fill, I added a stroke, much like you could do in Photoshop, and then I put it on its side and I centered the text, and that's my heading. So I've got the 2 pictures that I cropped. Then I took the article and I created text boxes. So this one here, because it's the start of an article, I've made it kind of a bigger heading paragraph to start with. And then this other one here, I've created 2 text boxes. Now the interesting thing about this text box is that it's connected to the other one. So if I delete this text box for now, what you'll notice is there's a little red cross down here, and there's an error here. So if I double click on this error, it'll say text, and then say there's overset text on page 2. So what that means is there's text that you've pasted in and there's been a problem with it, okay? So what I can do that's really I could just copy and paste into another text box here. That's perfectly fine. But InDesign's got a cool little feature where if I draw another text box here, then I can use just my black standard arrow. I can click on that, and it gives me that text, and then I can paste it into another text box. And then if I make things longer here for whatever reason, it'll flow automatically. If I make things shorter for whatever reason, then it'll flow on to the other one. So I'm having a bit of trouble with my mouse at the moment, but yeah, it flows on nicely. So you might want to have those things working together to create something nice and interesting. So remember, little bit of text done in here, but it's also perfectly fine to create your fancy images in Photoshop and then just paste them in afterwards as JPEGs, crop around with them, do something interesting. We want this to look as good as the front and the back look, okay? So at this point, if you don't want to add interactivity to your project and you just want to export, you can go File, Export, and that will save as a PDF. So you call it whoever the magazine is. So in this case, this was made by Noah. So I would say save it as Noah, or I would save it as, for this Masters Assessment 1 magazine. And then I save it somewhere where I'm good with it. And I will save this as an Adobe PDF print because there's no interactive features, okay? So if I do that, then I'll save it to my desktop and I hit save. And all of these things come up here, and we can really ignore most of them. But I'm going to view PDF after exporting just so it shows up nice and quick. So that exports out and it shows me, obviously I've got low quality, and remember that's because I took those screenshots before this wasn't an original Photoshop file. It shows me that, and I think I may have made a slight mistake because it's only exported out the first page. So if that sort of thing happens to you, and it's good that I made a mistake because I can show you now, there are a couple of reasons for that. So I've said this, and I've said in here, range 1. I don't know why that was the option, that was the default, but I want to change that to all, okay? So I can save it again, view PDF after exporting, and now I've got my 4 pages, okay? So we can see how that works. We can zoom it out a little bit so we can see how it's working here. I'm happy with that as a PDF, but it does split it up, which is kind of annoying, but that's okay. I will take that perfectly into marking, and there are ways that I can set up my view to make it so it looks good. So don't worry if your stuff runs over the page like that and it comes up looking on Acrobat like this. There are ways around it, and there's not going to be any mark penalties for that. So if you're not making an interactive PDF, you're just making the basic one, you can finish now. Great, have a lovely day. But now we're going to move into how you would do the extension activity, which is how you can add interactivity to this sort of thing, okay? So, the way that you do this is with a concept called buttons. So I'm going to do this back page here, and I'm going to add 3 buttons to this which link to different websites, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make this main one here link to a YouTube Rick and Morty video. So I'll click on it, and I'll right click, and I'll go interactive, convert to button. And this form will come up here, this table will come up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this a button, say on release, or I have to have it selected, on release or tap, and I'm going to say go to URL. So we're saving this as a PDF, so you can use any of these things here, and you can use any of these things, but you can't use an EPUB. An EPUB would be if you were creating a magazine for iBooks or something like that, but it's a little bit out of the scope of this project, okay? So what I want to do is I want to go to URL, but you could also just as easily do sound and video, and we'll talk about how to do that at the end, but go to URL is a nice easy one. So go to URL, and a URL address comes up here. Now I had these buttons before, and there's a YouTube link here. I just made the same ones. So if we put this here and I say, go to this link, now this button here is a preview, and it'll show me what I have to do. So if I click on this button, you can see the link now comes up, and have you acquired creepy and then the video plays. So that works within the program, and we can also set up some other buttons in exactly the same way. So I've got this button here which links, so if I ever need to find it again, it's in here, interactive window, interactive buttons and forms. So I've got this YouTube one, I've already talked about this, so we can delete this one. I've got this other one here which takes you to Adult Swim. So I can create a little box. So this is, in here is the sort of null box, the rectangular frame. So you can create one of any size, and then you can right click on that and go interactive, convert to button, and then it'll do something, okay? So this one here, that's exactly what I did. Then I did on release or tap, go to URL, and then Adult Swim. Okay, then I believe I did another one, which is the exact same thing over here, but this one goes to the Australian Netflix address for Rick and Morty, okay? So now when I go into my preview and I check, I click Adult Swim, and whoops, okay, so the problem that I've currently got, if I'm looking at it, is to do with my layering. So what's happened is the layering of this picture is such that this box is in front of those other invisible boxes. If that happens, you go right click, I go arrange, and I go center back. And suddenly you'll see that those are now visible down there. So now, if I press play on it, hopefully, yep, it takes me to Adult Swim now, which is exactly what I wanted. And it takes me to Netflix, which is blocked in school, but it'll still work. So at this point, if you just wanted to do links, we can say we're done. So you would go into InDesign, export. Now what's very important here is you say Adobe PDF Interactive, okay? So and whatever I'm going to call it, I save it on my desktop. So this is interactive. I'm going to do it as spreads, not pages. And I'm going to, go export. That's fine. I can just skip through this, and this gives me a PDF, same PDF as before. So the first 2 pages are all the same, but if my spread shows up here, which is nice. If I click here, and then I'm gonna go allow the first time, and it works.
What?
So
Have you acquired creepy?
this PDF could be uploaded to Google Classroom just like any other file. So I can't show you what it looks like from a student view, unfortunately, but you would go into Classroom, you would find the due date. So for me, I've got to go to my school account. And then when that loads up, I've got Year 9 Multimedia, and I would go to classwork. I will create an assignment upload box for you, and then you can put it in there. So it'll say add a file, there'll be a little paper clip there, and you'll be able to do it from this classwork folder as soon as I set that up, and I'll set that up right after I make this video. Okay, so the other things you could potentially do is you could play sounds from it. So I think I've got this character here, and I'm going to make this character speak. So I have this here. So once again, exact same thing. I create a null box. I have to import a sound file. So if I go into InDesign and I go place, and then I'm going to try and find some kind of MP3 file. I don't have a lot of stuff on here, unfortunately, that I can use, but let's see if I can find an MP3 at all. So I've got an MP3 here, which is a bit boring. I'm trying to see if, TV static. That's a nice short 1 second one, okay? So what that's gonna do now is that's going to give me a sound file here. And I'm usually pretty okay with having the sound file here, but one thing that you need to realize is if you have your interactive buttons and we look at what the preview looks like, the MP3 will actually be visible on screen, and we don't want that. So what we do instead is just like we did before when we were hiding the buttons and we wanted to get it to the back one. I want to send this to the back. Now, when we look at it, if we pull this out big again, you'll notice that it's missing. It's hidden behind this part here, okay? So now, when we click on this button here, and of course I just deleted exactly what I wanted, we've got the buttons here, and we're going to go on release or tap, play sound. And you can do video in the exact same way. You just need to download an MP4 file. So we go sound, and I'm gonna say play TV static, and I could have to play, stop, resume, pause when you click a button. So you could have an MP3 that plays when you open the magazine. When you hit a button, you say pause. And then I'm going to look at this and look at my preview, and when I click on it, I can see it's interactive, and the static plays. Now that'll play any MP3 you want. So you could set up lots of different nulls to play lots of different sounds. You could put a video box if you've got an MP4. So let's see if I just import something that I've used today. So if I go import and I go place, collab recording, that's an hour-long video, so I don't want to use that one. Let's see, I can always just search on here for MP4, see what comes up. Okay, this is a very strange video, but I'm gonna put this in anyway, okay? So this is a video that I might wanna put in for whatever reason. I'm cropping this by going Command and Shift, but let's say you found a video on YouTube and you found a way to download that YouTube video or something of that nature. Then I would right click on this video, I would go interactive. Okay, so it's not gonna let me create a bookmark. It's not gonna let me create a button out of a video, but I could create it out of this null that I was using before for the sound. So I can do, not a bookmark, sorry. I wanna go into Window, Interactive, Buttons and Forms. And then on release or tap, I can get rid of my sound by hitting the minus, or I could even add it so it plays the sound and plays the video at the same time. But I'm going to delete this action. I'm going to go into video. I'm going to go in, that will be play, and we'll call it camera dancer disease. Okay, so now I've got my video, and when I click that button, it plays. You can also use the video here, or you can go into So by default, it will have this play button here. But if you don't want that to happen, if you want it to trigger by another button, you can go into Window, Interactive Media, okay? And that will look at your video, and then you can go in and you can get it to play on page load. You can choose the poster from the current frame. You can go in and set your options for exporting interactive PDFs, so you can say how it plays the video, how it centers it, do all that sort of stuff. It seems like they've gotten rid of, in this version of InDesign, your ability to get rid of these buttons. So if you want to put a video that just plays like this in there, it seems like it's easier now. All you need to do is actually place that video in there. So I think we're running a little bit long, and that's fine. But if we go now, File, Export, we export as an interactive PDF. I'm just gonna call it whatever. We go into here. The interesting thing is it won't save with the same file name until you've closed the Adobe Acrobat file. So if we do that there, and we hit export, it's gonna take a little bit longer to export this one because you've got the video in it, but not too long. And then we've got a video in here. I click to activate it, and hopefully it works for me. Oh, 3D content, options, let's say, trust this document, and then hopefully it's gonna work for me. Okay, so the video is being a bit tricky, if I'm being honest with you. I would avoid it, but if you can get it to work, that would be amazing. So realistically, links, audio, that's okay. Video, it's an option, but it can be a little bit finicky to use. I wouldn't recommend it, okay? But those are your options for what you could do for the extension and the interactivity if you want it. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to make sure I can get video working if you really want to. It's up to you what you want to do. It kind of seems like it works now, which is very strange. Oh, there we go, it works. It just needed to load in. So see, we've got our video here, which is playing it. And the button worked, even though I thought it wouldn't in Photoshop. It just needed time to load. Okay, so it can be a bit tricky, but those are options if you want to do it. So maybe you could even get a video of, in this case, Rick and Morty off the internet, download it, put it in. That would be excellent. So I'll see you guys later. Good luck, and make sure to email me with any questions. Thanks.